Michael Ellner, president of HEAL, very knowledgeable and very informative, very committed to these issues. And I think that we need to look very carefully at the science of these issues, the medical issues behind whether or not HIV is the cause of AIDS. And we got to focus on the medical, because it's critical that we make a determination. Did someone ever isolate the HIV virus? Can anyone name the scientific study when HIV was isolated? Can anyone name the scientific study that proved HIV was the cause of AIDS? These are the issues we have to focus on. And what are the solutions? Well, we can't think about solutions until we get a clear understanding. Has HIV ever been isolated? Has it ever been proven to cause AIDS? And we'll name the scientific study in which that occurred. And so, without further ado, Michael Ellner.
Thank you very much. Now, personally, we have a number of opinions. HIV came from a green monkey. HIV was made in a government laboratory. I don't care if HIV came from green cheese. If there's such a thing as HIV, show me a purified sample. That goes for all the people who believe in HIV. Show me the sample. Show me the beef. Now, we don't need a virus to explain AIDS. Let me tell you, right here in America, I heard people say something, I want to add an insight to it. I heard other speakers point out in the rungs of the ladder, black people are at the bottom, people of color. I heard another speaker point out at the bottom of the line are women. I don't disagree. So then at the bottom of that we have black women, women of color. But there's something even below that in America and around the world, and that's gay men. They were the perfect people to exploit. First, they don't reproduce or are not expected to. So you can do all sorts of experiments on them, and it's not going to carry over to the next generation. In the late 70s, a small group of gay men were coming down with diseases that were unexpected only because no one was looking at who the men were. These were men who had behaviors that were mind-blowing and extraordinary. There was lots and lots of very serious multiple substance abuse. But not only that, there was a history of sexually transmitted diseases and the treatment of these diseases in such a way that they produced drug treatment-resistant diseases. The early gay men getting AIDS averaged over 2,000 different sexual partners a year. Can anyone fathom that? I'm a child of the 60s. I can't think of that. It gives me a headache. And this was not ordinary sex because testosterone only goes so far. The sex was driven by certain drugs that were used exclusively or almost exclusively in the gay community. We know them as poppers, amyl and butyl nitrites. These drugs themselves have been linked to the very cancers that became the hallmark of AIDS. Then something really happened, terrible to these gay men. The government said to all the doctors, through the New York Times, we're warning all the doctors who treat gay men, be on the lookout for sick gay men who might have this new gay cancer, and put them on chemos and radiations as quickly as possible. We know what happened. They died very quickly. And then, in the mid-80s, they introduced AZT, a failed cancer therapy. A therapy that they said themselves was more dangerous than cancer. And what did they do? They introduced it to the gay community primarily as the new miracle drug. And they gave these gay men terribly large, lethal doses. It killed them very quickly. And then, as if it were magic, they cut the doses in half. And after cutting the doses in half, the gay men were dying much more slowly, much more profitably. And they said, this is the proof the treatment works. These are murderous swine. There's no argument there. The argument is how it's being done. Keating gave a fantastic presentation on latex. Keep in mind, In the very countries where people are starving to death, they're giving them condoms. They can't eat the condoms. It won't address the problem. But isn't that a form of population control in and of itself? And if these latex condoms, like the latex gloves, cause allergies, could it be that telling people to use condoms makes them at risk for testing positive on this useless test? You had a doctor up here who said in his own experimentation he found if you don't dilute the blood, everybody is positive. And yet everybody isn't getting sick and dying. The only thing this test tells us that the people testing positive have a lot more serious health risks. Not a virus, not an antibody for the virus, but they have a lot of antibodies that will react on this test. The test is a murderous fraud. Now, Dr. Valentine pointed out they allocated $156 million for minority communities, urban centers, so that you can get these miraculous drugs. Let me tell you, listen to my words. If the cheese is free, it's probably a mousetrap.